Right, so as regular viewers will know, I rarely, if ever, have anything positive to say about the BBC when it comes to news coverage, and its coverage of Israel and Gaza has been particularly pathetic if I were to single out the subject matter of this video here. But one thing the BBC does do well, and still does in my view, is documentaries, even it seems when it comes to Israeli atrocity. The film Gaza, How to Survive A Warzone was a brilliant, told from the perspective of children living in Gaza documentary, but was pulled as soon as it was noted one of those kids had a parent who was a Hamas politician, and the BBC got rightfully rinsed for that. The film didn't support Hamas, but the Israel Looby cried, and as usual they won, and the film therefore got pulled. This time it's Louis Theroux though, and so this film is probably safe, but that still comes with a caveat, because it is an absolute masterpiece, and it really does damn Israel and the Israeli settlers utterly. I can't praise it highly enough. If you haven't watched this, go and do so, because if you have in doubt, been in two minds still as to whether to believe mainstream media all too often pro-Israel narratives, or the other side of the story, not the Hamas or the Hezbollah side, but the Palestinian civilian side, this does that. And because it is Louis Theroux with his laid-back, say little, put the interviewee at ease strategy to get them to open up, well, open up they did. And Israel have damned themselves utterly on film in a way I don't think they ever have been before. This is an essential watch for anyone interested in what is happening to Palestinians at the hands of Israel. So go watch. Right, so hopefully you'll have just seen some clips there from Louis Theroux's new documentary, The Settlers. I say hopefully, you never know how long before these things get pulled necessarily these days, do you? 3 clips featuring 3 key events from that documentary. First up, there was loudmouth Texan Ari Abramovich sporting a massive gun and claiming Palestinians don't exist. This is a guy who went to Israel aged 16 to study the Torah and never left. A man who claims wherever they don't settle, terrorism grows instead. Believing in the biblical right to land that isn't theirs, and that the right to settle land that isn't theirs, it doesn't matter if it is illegal, because their right to steal the land transcends that, transcends the laws of mere mortals apparently. And then there is the face of settler fruitcakery herself, the so-called godmother of the settler movement, Daniela Weiss, whose parents came from Poland and she was born before Israel ever existed, making her Palestinian rather than Israeli in which case. Wants more people to settle the land, that putting her own people first is one thing, but to not consider Palestinians in any way, shape or form is sociopathic. And when that very word was put to her by Theroux, she laughed it off and called it normal. And then, in another bit after Weiss denied any settler violence towards Palestinians, she turned to Theroux and pushes him and tells him to do something back to her. And when he refuses to retaliate, she's disappointed, because she claims the camera could have just recorded that bit and made the claim that he was just violent towards women. Kind of told me a lot about the selective editing we see amongst Israeli claims all too often. The final clip I showed there was in the town of Tuwani, the building Theroux and his company were in, surrounded by the IDF, who were shining their laser sights through the windows and calling for the British press to come out, which he is advised against doing by the Palestinians he's with. He asked for the police and he was told who would actually come, what sort of police would actually be there. It's all one occupation, and that this is actually what is normal, growing up under this kind of oppression. What Theroux did here is what he always does in his documentaries, and that is allow the settlers to speak for themselves, or the interviewees to speak for themselves, exposing in their own words their excuses for atrocity, based here, certainly, on religious extremism, racial supremacy, and colonial entitlement. This film is more than just a documentary, it is a massive indictment, and it is not one that emerges from selective editing, as perhaps Daniela Weiss likes to see, but from the settlers' own words, that there is no escaping the context of either. In The Settlers, Theroux revisits the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a topic he previously explored in his 2011 film The Ultra-Zionists. But this time he focuses on Jewish settlers in the West Bank, individuals who believe they have a divine right to the land, and who often express openly derogatory views about Palestinians. One particularly foul example concerned a rabbi called Dov Lior, who said, "There is no peace and never will be. This land belongs only to the people of Israel. All of Gaza, all of Lebanon should be cleansed of these camel riders." And I thought to myself, well, if this land is his by divine birthright or whatever, doesn't that make him a camel rider as well, in which case? Of course, being as white as I am is absolute nonsense, racist and vile, and nobody forced these words into their mouths. It is one of the most striking aspects of the film in how it allows the settlers time and time again to condemn themselves through their own words. Figures like Daniela Weiss, who articulate a vision of Jewish supremacy and territorial expansion in the West Bank and in Gaza, revealing the expansive ambitions of the settler movement. It's also no good saying that this is a Louis Theroux film and he only ever interviews cranks and weirdos, even if Weiss, for one, may well fit that bill. And many a Zionist actually would perhaps admit as much. They have been. But watch the film yourself and ask yourself, is anything any of these people are saying the sort of thing that wouldn't be agreed with wholeheartedly by the likes of, say, Benjamin Netanyahu or Bezalel Smotrich or Itamar Ben-Gvir? Theroux's interactions with these individuals are marked by his calm persistence in stark contrast to what is absolute abject batshittery on the whole. He asks simple, direct questions and allows the settlers to elaborate, often leading them to make increasingly extreme statements, but it's never forced. They just keep on saying the quiet parts out loud. Even before its release, though the settlers faced criticism from pro-Israel commentators. In a Spectator article, no particular big surprise, it's probably the most right-wing paper in the UK, Jonathan Sacerdote accused Theroux of bias in an article titled "Why Does Louis Theroux Keep Picking on Israeli Settlers?" from back in February. But he didn't. He let them expose themselves. He's very good at this style of filmmaking and an interview, and frankly, it's not a shocker such an article comes from someone like Sacerdote. We are talking about the 2010 winner of the World Zionist Organization's Herzl Award here, named after the atheist who founded Zionism, an award handed to young men and women for their exceptional efforts on behalf of Israel and the Zionist cause. So how about you just put a sock in it, sunshine? If you're going to go there with bias, start with your own. But let's not forget this was 2 months before anyone had even seen this film. This is an outstanding piece of film, and an extremely important film. I can't get the words out. It really is that important. It is that brilliant. And being on the BBC, of all places, who knows how long you'll still be able to watch it. So if you've not yet watched it, please make sure you do so as soon as possible. If you're not sure of the truth of the matter anymore, given all the varying coverage and opinions that have been coming out for so long on what has been happening in Israel and Gaza, then listen to the Zionist settlers say it themselves, what they advocate for and do in the West Bank, and condemn themselves as they do so. Remember why this situation has been so upsetting, so angering, so avoidable and unnecessary, and that these attitudes, as appalling as they are, still persist when they should have been consigned to the Dark Ages, and that supporting them is unflinchingly being offered still by our government and too many others besides, utterly unacceptable as that is. Speaking of our government support, though, remember those arms license bans to Israel from last year? Well, guess what? There's a loophole getting around them, and they have been. It's been around since the Tories were in charge, apparently, and Starmer and Lammy just kept it going. Well, now they've been found out, and there needs to be hell to pay for it. Get all the details of that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as supporting the channel at the very same time, which is very much appreciated, holding power to account for ordinary working class people. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.